Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Angular Air. I'm your host, Justin Schwarzenberger. And on today's episode, we are going to be checking out a solution for dynamic reactive forms. Should be pretty cool, pretty exciting. We're looking forward to diving into this topic. So let's get at it. Let's say hi to our panelists. Today, we've got Alyssa Nichol with us. Alyssa, how's it going?
Oh, it's going wonderful. I'm so glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you. Austin McDaniel's with us. Austin, what's going on?
Hey, everyone.
All right. Giving us the wink. Awesome. And for everybody who's just listening to the audio, Austin just winked at us, right? And our guest today is Juan Stoppa. Juan, how's it going?
Hi, how you doing? All right? Thank you, doing well.
Glad to have you here. Glad to have you here. Why don't you introduce yourself to our viewers? Let them know a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Argentinian actually. Live in London for a long time. Been doing software development probably for around 15 years, something like that, and an Angular around 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So I live in London. I think I said that already.
Cool.
Right.
And you've been just doing the latest Angular? Well, it's kind of weird. Like now it's been a couple years since we do Angular versus like Angular JS. But did you do any Angular JS back in the day?
Yeah. So I did start Angular JS. Probably I think I came across about it like 4 years ago, and yeah, we started implementing it in the company where I used to work for, and in my current company we also implemented it first, but then we were creating a new product, and it was just when we launched Angular 2 at the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. No, sorry, the end of 2016. Yeah. So and from there just doing pure Angular 2. Actually, I haven't been doing Angular JS for a while. So.
So you launched one that was Angular JS. Did you then convert that to Angular?
No, actually, we started from scratch. So that's why it was good that we caught in that time. I think it would have been really hard if moving. I think a lot of companies are having problem with that. Just it's just the investment behind having to do the upgrade. I think it's difficult.
Yeah, I did kind of the same route. I guess back in the day, though, at that time, there wasn't really like ng upgrade or anything, or the upgrade stuff and that path as well to kind of like run hybrid and to the same time. So you were kind of at that point where you're like, okay, do I just rewrite this?
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think back then our product was very small, so it wasn't that difficult. So that was good.
Awesome. All right, so dynamic reactive forms. What are we getting into today?
Yeah, so what I'm gonna show you is a few a few slides just showing why I believe dynamic reactive form is a good idea, and I'm gonna show you also a framework that I've been working on. I presented this one last year at Angular Connect, and yeah, I just want to walk you through and explain how it works. So if you want, I can show my slides.
Yeah, let's do it.
Right. Just there it is. I think you see it.
We can see it.
All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna just try to explain initially how dynamics reactive form. So I think if you go into the Angular website, there is a quick introduction of dynamic forms. So it explains what it is. It's pretty much using reactive forms is pretty much just building a data structure and then plugging into the reactive form and rendering on the front end. So that's pretty much what it is. But everyone would might think why use dynamic reactive form? Why not just hard code the forms? And I think it's a good point when the forms are very large, and or where the forms, or if you have multiple forms across the applications, if you have too many forms, I found it very useful to have it dynamic. And also sometimes it's quicker prototyping, because you can just build a JSON, and the JSON will just render the fields and form, and it makes it easy to, and if you need to show to someone or to quickly change something, rather than having to go and modify a whole template to do that. So and what I think is when not to use reactive form, I think, is if you have a very simple form that would hardly ever change. So let's say that you have a login screen. There's no point of trying to render something dynamically, or you have a functionality that is very, very specific, and you probably don't even use fields or that sort of things. I have seen reactive form being used, for all sort of different idea where you don't even have a fields. But anyway, so the problem then when it comes with reactive forms is, or with dynamic reactive form, is that what about the look and feel? Is you get to these points where your fields is pretty much one after the other one. If you want to split your form or your fields across the screens and do some other fancy things, and that's where you get into it needs to be kind of like a continuous list of fields to be able to do that. And then is really applying the conditional validation. For instance, is if you want let's say a field to be required based on the value of another field, and that's where it gets into those things that you can very easily do it with template, with a template, but not in dynamic reactive forms. So then making it extendable is also another problem, because you might have a certain list of fields that you can show, but then you need to modify your schema in order to show your other fields, and it just gets very difficult. And then you move from one problem to another problem, and now is handling a massive JSON that is, that will contain all your fields, and it's so cool. But then basically you came from a very hard-coded form that is it needs to be, it's very difficult to modify, to another problem that is modifying JSON, and that's the biggest problem. And that's where I come in with a solution I've been working in the last few months. I call him FormQL. The reason I call it FormQL, because he's kind of have the same paradigm as GraphQL. In GraphQL you have a query and you get your data from your server, and this is more or less the way that the FormQL works. And I'm gonna explain you exactly what it means. One thing is I'm not using ngRx anymore. I used to, the demo that I did back in Angular Connect it was using ngRx. I think I decided to remove it, and I'll explain it later why. And the only problem is that we're not gonna be able to do the Redux tool with F12, where you can see your data and all that, but that's fine. So so what FormQL allows you to do is you have a drag and drop editor where you can drag and drop your fields in the form. You have this is something that I added in the last few months. This is a CSS grid template. So that's if you want your form to look different and you want to put fields in different areas on the screen, you can do with this. You can do that with it. And so of course when it allows you to do conditional validation, and also you can extend it using your custom components. So and I'll show you that what it is. So and I have a quick demo. If you want, can show you. And let me. So this is. Can you see it there? Right?
Yep.
Yes, I can see it.
I don't know if you have any questions so far, or maybe if it makes sense what I said so far. And
so the general idea is that as developers here, we're thinking about like, how could we model our form in terms of the fields and the data types into something like JSON data, and then have that auto build out all the markup and everything that we need for our individual forms. Is that kind of the approach here?
Yeah, that's the approach. You know, I had this problem really in working on the enterprise, where you really see a lot of different kind of forms. You know, sometimes I think it's pretty much in the enterprise is you know, the requirement is I have this paper form of 30 pages and I want to put it in the computer, you know, and I want to look pretty much the same, you know. So and that's when you get the challenge. Sometimes, you know, you can argue back, and sometimes it's a good point. And so I think this is kind of trying to get there in the middle, you know, where
Okay, 3 questions.
right.
Wow.
Go for it.
Okay, you said ngRx line through it. Do you care to talk about that real quick?
Okay. So why I'm not using it anymore, you mean?
Yes.
All right. So I think I'm going to show you later, but what I'm trying to do here is just to separate what I call the metadata and the actual data, you know, or transactional data, I call it. The transactional data will be the information that you type in, you know, that's pretty much is your data that's going to be sent to the server when you say the form. So what I used to do before is to have two. So I have in my component, I have the list of reactive forms and all the tree structure, and then in the ngRx store, I used to have my metadata structure and my data, and I used to store it. But I just found that I could do it easily in another way that is using subject. Can go back to that. I'm not sure if everyone will agree with that, but I think I found, you know, from going into having the whole ngRx store with different area, you know, and 4 files and all that sort of thing, I went to have only one file with just a few indication file store. I think I still like ngRx, I think, but I will use it in some sort of you know, when you have a dashboard and you need to do several web service call and you kind of need to handle the state. But yeah, anyway. So that's the first question. Sorry.
So next question. Are you using JSON schema specification to specify your form?
No, and that's a really good question, I think. No, I'm not using JSON schema specification. I think is my take on that, I think, is I'm planning to use it, but I want more my every component to have to dictate how the data is going to be pushed, and I'm going to show you later what I mean with that. But yeah, it doesn't use the JSON schema structure. Yeah.
Okay. Third question. One could argue that we have actually moved away from a pattern of describing our components as JSON documents to being more web-driven, like a declarative syntax. Right. You know, if we think back to jQuery days, we would initialize something and give it a box of options, objects, and then it would render. And we've since moved away from that to a very more declarative approach, which fits more naturally in the DOM. This kind of goes backwards to that JSON approach. What is like the thought process of why describe that in JSON when you could just as easily like abstract components to be pretty generic and then just lay them out however you want?
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, and I think is probably the challenge for all this sort of solution. So my take on that is that we, in the way that the framework works, is that you define what component you wanna use, but then that component, the component, that field, is loaded using a dynamic component loader, and then from there you are in control of how you declare your your component. If that makes sense.
Mhm.
I can show you later, but so for instance, I give an example. I don't know if you're looking at the screen. I've got this first name, right? And this one is calling this component, and that component is well specified, and I'll show you later where. And from there is pretty much you're receiving for a dynamic form, a form group, and then from there you just treat it as you would, as you were using any form. So it's about where to render the fields on the form, and then anything else just work exactly the same. I don't know if that makes sense or
Close enough.
right. Okay, but I mean it's a very valid challenge. I think and I kind of knew that. I don't know why I thought that you were going to ask me that. I don't know why. Sorry.
It's because you know him.
I've been following the the show for a couple of times, but I think I really like your question. I think is great. What you went straight to the point. And I think is very valid point. It's a very valid point.
I've actually built one of these before, and we made it where you could drag and drop the form fields. So like a business dude could like drag and drop the form fields, and then like we would just basically save like this metadata about it and then render it just like you're doing here.
Right. Okay. Yeah. It's pretty much that here also. If you want, I can walk you through that. So it's basically that. So you have here when you hover over, you get these fields, right? And then you can, if you want, you can drag over to another place, like that. Then you can put it back if you want, the sort of things. What other things? Well, I can probably walk you through on probably from what I call the tree structure, but it's from the top. But where I have this form and these settings, and is what we call the form editor, and this is at the top, and it tells you again using dynamic component loader is what component to load. The moment I have only one layout, that's I call it layout, and it's basically the main page of the form. So that's another thing that you can specify different ones if you want. The moment I have one, and let's say that you have a very particular form that you want to to put in, I don't know, different ways, or you want to have some level of customization there, then you can do it in that. And then you need to follow a certain structure then just to load what is next after the form is the pages. At the moment, so and this is really a work in progress, but I wanted to show how it is. And the next thing that don't get too scared about this one, but I'll show you what it is. So here, then you get the page. So the way that the tree structure works is that you can have multiple pages if you want. So in case, let's say that you want to build a wizard, right, where you want your buttons to go back and forward and that sort of thing. So it's not built yet, but that's the idea going forward. So and there's something that and here's where I wanted to show you where I'm using CSS Grid, right? And as you can see here, I mean, are you familiar with CSS Grid, or have you used it before? Okay, cool. You probably heard about this website that is called Laid Out. So what this website allows you is just to build something very, a very easy CSS grid structure. We can say, this is I don't know, let's say I would say ID1, And then we call it this one, sorry, maybe 2, maybe 3. So and this one, what it does, it creates areas on the background. I'll explain you where I go with this one, but basically, pretty much, this one gives you the code that you need to use if you want to go and build this structure. So this is pretty much what I'm using there. I have a directive to just go and render a page, and it puts four areas. In this case, for instance, it will be a 4 area. So what I'm building here is the same thing. It's basically, this is describing a page with 4 areas, and that's what I have. Any question on that? Oh,
That's
I
cool.
love it.
I like it. Yeah.
okay.
So really quick, Juan, and I dropped for a minute there, so maybe you already said this, but just in case, this editor that we're looking at here is providing us a way to design our forms that then will save that data out into something that then we can plug into our application and utilize with the form QL framework to render our forms in Angular. Is that correct?
You already said that, Justin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
absolutely.
Stormy, my connection dropped. Did you say that? Probably while I was gone?
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, that's exactly. So I have to hear this open in new window, and basically it's the form as is render, right? So for instance, if I were to say, I don't know, I want to move this section into here, right? That to save it, then you can just get in here, right? So
does it have workflow where I could say, like, don't let them click save until they put in, or don't let them put in their address until they put in their name or something like that?
It does, yeah.
Oh.
Gonna come into that now in a minute. So of course, I mean, this is very raw. This editor yet. I'm doing a lot of work. Bear in mind, I'm using the native API for doing the drag and drop. I've been considering using CDK, but then I ended up using and I explain you why later. And also, the one that I have in Angular Connect, I was using Dragula, and so I just dropped altogether that. I'm not using also any framework. I'm not using the material design, for instance, here. I'm using for the fields, but the framework itself, it doesn't use anything. So and I can show you later that. But anyway, so if I save this one here, and let me just make sure that I went back to what it was. So yeah, so what I will carry on in the order of the tree. Then what you have here is the sections, right? What I showed you before, it was the page with all the CSS grid identification. Then you have a section here where you can say. So basically, this one has four sections at the moment. So this is one section, which is indicated by these 3 changes. Right here, I have another section, and here another section. So, but if you want to add another section, you can just drag and drop like this one, right? And here I have 2 sections together. So it's the same thing. So the section have a header and a body. So and if I click on here, you get the same idea. There is the template, the header template and the body template. I'm planning to add a footer template, and it will be applied to the page also, but that will come later. I don't know if it makes sense so far. So this is the section that I just added, and automatically add one page. Just one row, right? It's only what has one area. So the areas are actually the identifier to where the component. So in this case, is to where the sections are dropped on the page, and then you have the component dropped on the section. So it's the same level of structure. Does it make sense? I mean, you don't need to understand, but that pretty much gives
I think that makes sense. And then you're saying like it's a work in progress, right? But I could totally see that those configurations that you slide out when you have the CSS grid values, like that could become something similar to that other site where you have a UI for that, right? So then instead of typing those in, you're actually like building the grid right there and that as well. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yes.
Take your credit card once you go to that one.
One thing is here. So I guess what you're saying, let's say that I want two section, or you want to split here this one. So that's what you want to do. You can call this one whatever you want, but I tend to call it like this. And then you said I want 2 columns, right? So when you do that, probably I need to do data validation around here, otherwise it will break a bit. But basically here I have, you see, I've got
did the split, yeah.
The body, yeah.
And then the styles below that, there's like a field for styles. Is that just for any styles, or it's only for that field? Like
the style is for the container around that. So you can drop the same way that you do ng style. You can drop something there, you know, and it's gonna be. I mean, I can't try it out, but it's pretty much that you put them. You know, I can try. I mean, it's like, let's say that you put here something like background color, I think. Right, that's a. I might put I don't know if red like that would work. Yeah, there you go.
Oh, that's beautiful. Right. That's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe if I remove that, yeah. Right. And then so here, you know, I said this is the page section and component, and then I can drop the component there if I want, right? And then in here you can select the component that you want to use, and this one is a list of components that are in the factory. So if you, for instance, if you include this framework into your own application and you put some, and that's where your question probably was going to be answered, is that if you create your own component where you follow certain rules, and I'm going to show you later, then it's going to display here, and you can use your own component there, if that makes sense. So for instance, here I have so the framework itself, I separated in 3 elements, in 3 packages. One is called FormQL Core. The other one is called FormQL Editor. So let's say if you go to production, you can completely remove the editor if you want and just use the core. Just that will give you this functionality here. And I have one also called FormQL Material. It's just to give you all the material design, and that's what all these these components bring. So if I do, for instance, data picker here, so this one's gonna convert into a data picker. That makes sense.
So then, is this similar to like GraphQL and Graphical, where it has the tool that when you install it locally into your project, that you could run this same like FormQL tool that we're looking at here on the website locally to edit your forms? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's if you see the I'm going to show you later, but I have the same thing here. Got a stack blitz there. So if someone wants to play, I'm not completely open it up out there. You know, I'm gonna do it very soon, but it's just I'm working on the documentation of this because it needs to be well documented. Otherwise, it's very tricky to understand how it works. And but yeah, it's you know, it's just if people want to go and play around with this one, is you know, it works exactly the same. You know, you click on there. It takes a bit longer because it's behind the stack blitz. You know, that needs to initiate first, but then the form is loaded. Pretty much the same.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I can walk you through the app in a minute if you want. Yes, sorry. The other thing that I wanted to show is also here the rules, and I think that's where you can be happy. But yeah. So here's further is the schema, and again, you know, I'm not using the JSON schema, but here, let's say that you are doing some sort of contact, and you want to put a date of birth or something like that. So So when I when I complete a date here, the information that I type in here is going to end up in that field, in that part of the JSON. So you will get a JSON then, where they will have a contact and a date. And I'm using text mask also. I've been, working with that. I just need to make it work now. I was trying to prepare an example today, but I couldn't finish. So I used it in a mortgage application form that I did in Angular Connect, is where you can type the information about your mortgage, and then you get two graphs as you type them, and but anyway, just go on and see the video in the Angular Connect if you want to see that. And here there are the other conditions that you can have. By the way, this one is pink here is because that's a hidden field. So if you click on here, that becomes visible. So in the editor, just don't show them as red. So it's pretty much if I go in here and I click, it shows you if you unclick, and then it gets hidden. And that is because I put a logic in rule here that pretty much tells you that if you put contact.add comment different than true, then it means that this one is going to be hidden.
And so is that like our template syntax that we're familiar with in Angular in terms of putting that into our markup?
Yes, it's pretty much the same. Thing is, it's interesting here because it's every time that you press a key, the data in the form in the background, you get the data generated. So this one is changed against that data that's been generated as you go. And it's pretty much your model. It will be in the Angular way. When you build your form, you have your model, and you would check it as your model.
That's cool.
And yeah, so it's the same thing for read-only and required. And I'll show you. You can have your own validators if you want, and I'll show you in a minute how I'm planning to do that. Yeah. I think that's that's a bit what I have. I've got a few more slides there. If you want me, I don't know if you have another question, or should I carry on with the slides?
How do you actually see the data that you put in?
That's that's something I lost with ngRx actually. That was really good with ngRx. I'm planning to put something together here where you can click and then another window will open, and you can see the data in real time. I mean, it's not that difficult, but yeah, I can't really show you that now, unfortunately. Sorry.
Because before you were using the Redux dev tools to inspect that, is that correct?
Exactly, yeah. So you could go there, and you had three objects. One was the form with all the metadata, then the components and the data. And I mean that's a cool part of Redux. I think I was doing some performance testing, and I think I was also, everything seems to be a bit slower also, when it's specifically when I was testing in the performance tools in the developer tools. So it's probably, I guess, React just doing a bit more work than what it needs to do now, and yeah. So yeah, let me see what. Okay, I think. Do you want to carry on with the slides, perhaps?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So yeah, this is the Redux store. This is actually something I borrowed from the slides that I have in the conference, but yeah, this is pretty much explaining what happened there. Layout, pages, sections, and components. Then the same thing here is we have the form metadata in the background, and then we have the reactive forms using the array of form groups that is being matched with the form metadata. And that's pretty much is if you want to, get your the status of your form at the page level or the section level or the component level, then you can do that, or the entire form. And yeah, and I think this is what you will see there in the stack plates, is that this is what the form QL has, but then you have this is pretty much a package that you install inside your application, and then you can have outside of, in your application, your custom layouts, your custom components, and your custom validators. And also there is a custom service. I'll show you how I do that, but it's basically I'm using the provider where you can identify what service to use, and then the service needs to implement an interface. You just need to do that, but I'll show you in a minute that too.
Real quick,
Yep.
back on that last slide.
Yep.
So then FormQL is using all the reactive forms under the hood, essentially, or tying into them. So is that correct?
Yeah, it's all using reactive forms in it.
Okay. So then would there be a case like if we needed to get a hold of one of those form fields through reactive forms in our code, we'd be able to still do that in this scenario?
Yes. So what I did is the form, there is an input that you can pass a reactive form if you want, and then the form QL, what it will do is it will attach to that reactive form, so you could have access to that outside of the form. That's one way, or you can have access to in your own component, custom component, but you get just the form group of that specific component, and then from there you can look at it from different places
And connect to like value changes or whatever you might need to do, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So I mentioned this one. So we have the form QL core and the editor. Then there is a material. I call this one like bundles, and I'm planning to create. I want to create another one for Bootstrap, and maybe any other one for the design. They call it system design, I think, or the design frameworks. And this is what I'm planning to do. Just create design system. That's what I meant. Create another bundles for the design systems. There is something there with the responsive design. So what happens if your form becomes very small for mobile? I would probably implement something so you can define how your forms should render in mobile or in a desktop. Of course, you could create two forms. One for mobile and one for one, but then you need to kind of maintain two forms. Then the one-to-end relationship is another tricky one, because it's pretty much it's like having a form inside a form, but it's not that I'm planning to do that, but it's planning to use the what is a section and just treat it as a one-to-end relationship. So it is just put a footer with a button, and then as you click the button, then you repeat the body.
Is one-to-end something I should know? I feel like I haven't heard of one. Is that like, what is that?
Sorry, no, yeah, sorry about that. It's pretty much an array. It's an array in your let's say in your data structure you have somewhere like an array. Let's say that this is a form for a contact, and you want to put I don't know how many telephone number. You have more than one telephone number, right? And then you're gonna add as many as you want. So it's that ability to repeat the fields. So and then you can add new, and you can just keep adding, and that will be stored in a list of like an array. Yeah, it's one-to-one. It's a very, very database.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think that's a CSS thing, so I'm lost. Okay, I gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and then the wizard feature, I think is something I'm thinking what potentially is like rendering pages. So having a special layout, there's the wizard layout, and have the so kind of tabs, I would say, and then navigate back and forward through different pages. I'm just trying to see how I could work that out together with the router, so you can maybe change the router every time that you show a new page, rather than you really want your state to be controlled by the router rather than or by the router, how we say this part of it. All right, and then implementing internationalization, sorry, and localization, I think that's something that I want to look at, and it's a very interesting and challenging feature, but yeah.
Yeah,
And,
like one of the toughest things I've always run into with that when you do the internationalization and localization is, especially with forms, is now the translation of those form field like labels and the layout when you're talking like responsive design and stuff, right? That's when it gets real tricky.
yeah, no, it's
Big task. Yeah.
it's crazy. Yeah, I think it's
If you have jokes, you've got to get those totally redone, because every time I tell jokes to other people that are not in the US, I always just fall flat.
No, I think it's
Imagining Austin up on stage and like the audience is completely silent, like ah.
okay. All right. Yeah, I don't have any other joke. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm just kidding. Yeah. All right, and yeah, that's pretty much it with my slides. I wanted to show you something. Is in this. I can walk you through that stack blitz app if you want, and so this one, for instance, is one where I have implemented. I kind of something to understand also is I'm using the router to define the form that you want to load, and that's pretty much just to make it easier to load. Otherwise, I need to put the big list somewhere just with the list of forms, and here you can pretty much decide which form you want to load. And what I did in the router is just to say, if there is no route, just go to this form that have the predefined, and then this normal form on the edit way, just load the form QL editor. But these one are a specific component where inside I just put the form QL editor. So probably too small, no?
Yeah, increase it a little bit.
Sorry. Yeah. It's better there, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And and the other one is pretty much just loading form QL there. So here is so you pass the form name, is the form that you want to load, and then you can pass a list of IDs also if you want to load, let's say, contacts 1, 2, 3, let's say, into the form. That's not working right now here, but it's something that I'll implement soon. And then this is the service that you need to implement for to make it work. At the moment, the get data is just an empty object. It's like pretty much like a new contact. And then what I'm using here is just in order to be able to play with it, is just storing the information in the local storage. So if you make a change and save, then you can go and see it in your so the first time is the local storage is empty, then you will load it from an API where you have the JSON, the massive JSON. The second time we'll load it from the local storage. And yeah, in my modules here, I'm just loading. This is how I define the provider, and how it gets identified from inside the PhonQL. And yeah, it's I've also have these three modules that are the modules from PhonQL and the material one.
So then the FormQL service, is that how we would like load data if we're going to load data into an edit form, let's say?
Yeah, so the service is pretty much, you can use it as long as you get hold of the metadata. You can use it in any way. If you think it's better to load the data from the server, for instance, of course you're gonna get a bit of delay there, but yeah, or you could load it. Or, you could potentially set up an application to prepare the forms and create like some sort of in your dev environment, and then when you move it into production, maybe you just move that JSON into a specific area. Is just trying to just leave the flexibility to use your service in any way. I didn't want it to make it dependent on using GraphQL or anything like that. The version I have initially was dependent on GraphQL, and I think that's pretty much what I'm trying to avoid is when I was trying to do this one is, or I had this problem originally. I was looking for frameworks that do this one, and they will always be very opinionated on how you use your components. Probably Austin very happy with that side, and or the other side is you have the full implementation, but then you need to have a Node.js server, with certain schema and all that sort of things. But that's the idea of the framework, and yeah, it's gonna be open source. I'm just hoping that people go out there and start building things or components that can be hooked into it, and that's pretty much what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of stuff, and it's super impressive. I like it a lot. I have a couple questions. So the idea of the tool, right, where you craft that form and stuff like that, it feels like it's pretty close to the point where somebody could necessarily not have to know that much Angular, but they could rapidly build forms. So you have somebody on a team, and like you mentioned, when you have an enterprise that you have a lot of data collection, and you're trying to upgrade from these legacy systems of paper or fax or whatever, and you're trying to create these forms rapidly, you could have somebody on your team utilize this tool to craft those forms to mimic your old forms that you had and get started with it, and then have somebody else come in there and take that from there and do the plumbing into your app. Would that be correct? And is that kind of the idea of the UI of this form builder?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the idea. I think you need to be someone probably semi-technical. Let's not forget that all the configuration that you enter in there, it could break the form, because your app needs to be tested per form. You don't save your test in there. But yeah, it could be used for someone that is not that technical and knows a bit of JavaScript, maybe just to create the conditions, and yeah, it's definitely doable. So you could get especially in I would say in a company where probably you want to get the developers to do very specific work, very cool work, then they can spend time on that rather than configuring forms. Of like in all the frameworks, it will mean just fiddling with JSON around and copying things around.
Yeah, that's very cool. The other neat thing that I see in this is that I could imagine this same sort of code and logic here being something like a content management system, right, within Angular, because you're essentially picking these components from a list and putting them in this layout and designing this stuff, right, for forms. But it could also be the same kind of logic and code plumbing could be done for just laying out different components and stuff within making a page layout within an Angular app, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's entirely doable. I think it's in that case, for instance, I think it would probably make more sense to use NGRX and handle the widget to widget configuration on that. It's definitely something that is you could use the same concept. Yeah.
Yeah, very yeah.
You could do crazy like put it let people create forms and then put workflow on it, and then let them save it, and then let people fill them out, and then search on the data, and then report on the data and create dashboards. And then you would have a whole product.
Oh, I really, the idea of doing this one is, I'm pretty sure there is a lot of things inside there in the code that can be done better, and I've done it the best to the best of my knowledge, and that's why what I want to open source it and get ideas and maybe get it to the community and just see if I can get feedback, and just trying to improve it. I think is something that I had the frustration of having to maintain hard-coded forms, and it's a hard job, and that's pretty much what I want to do. Yeah.
That's another great point, is that, we're thinking, and at least I'm thinking as I'm watching through this, is the building of the initial form, right? But the maintainability of it going forward, and I got to add a field to it or adjust something around it. Like, what do we got to do in order to do that in our raw code versus something like this, how this could expedite that process, right? And potentially make it a lot easier for us to tweak those fields later on as we refactor our forms.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. That's a pretty good point.
Very cool. Well, super, super impressive. A lot of work, and
thank you.
Putting this out there, sharing it. It's we're very grateful. Thank you for sure on that.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for having me on the show also and being able to show it. Yeah, that's
cool.
Very good.
All right. Well, why don't we get to some picks? Unless we have anything left on here that we want to address really quick, or any other questions, or we can get to some picks. We good? All right. Let's do some picks.
3.4 RC.
I guess Austin's going first. Let me stop presenting here. And Juan, do you want to pop your webcam back on so we can all?
Oh yeah, sorry.
And then let's see. Stop presenting, and then
I had to get that one in before someone stole it.
All right. So Austin, what are your picks?
TypeScript 3.4 RC.
Okay. And that's it? That's just the one?
Yeah. I don't know what it does, but it's a new version of it.
All right.
So glad you stole that one then.
I know. I totally have that one queued. Alyssa, do you have any picks?
Yes. So I don't know if you all know this, but our host is actually an author of some pretty amazing Schwart stories. Oh, I love that name so much.
What story?
Schwart stories, and it makes my heart happy, just like that title alone. But I've been enjoying them, and I really think it's worth the purchase. So I'm going to include the link from his Twitter that has the link to buy them. But yes, he is not only an amazing host and developer, but an author. So hats off. Yay, Justin.
Thank you. I'm going to go cry now. Somebody want to take over? Oh, and of course I lost my...
Did you lose? Oh, we can still see you and hear you. Maybe. Oh, he doesn't know. Okay, so we're going to keep going with picks until he has...
Okay.
Juan, do you have any picks to share with the audience? And if you want me to tweet out also like that StackBlitz link, you can get that to me after the show, and I'll make sure people have that.
Okay. Yeah, so my pick is probably something that I've been using recently. It's called a book. It's called Refactoring UI. I don't know if you heard about it. And I think I've been reading it, and it's really good. I think it's would recommend it, having a look at it.
Oh, is it the refactoringui.com as well?
Oh yeah, that's
that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. It's I think there is a section on forms actually there that and is by the way, on top of that form. Yeah, that I'm trying to match with FormQL, just trying to match the UIs on that book. Yeah, sorry.
Very cool. And then do you have places online that people can follow you or find you that you're active on?
Yeah, so it's I'm not very active in Twitter. I'm trying to become. So he's in at Juan Stoppa. Is my name and surname, and I'm for FormQL. Again, I created a Twitter handle is at FormQL _IO. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I can
Okay.
send it to you if you want. Yeah. So,
Yeah, awesome. I wish I would have known. I'll make sure and tweet it out in the reply tweet. I didn't know that FormQL had a Twitter handle. That's awesome.
All right. Cool.
All right, are you back with us, Justin?
I think I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we actually never lost you. You just lost us. So we got to see your mad scramble. It was kind of it was very entertaining.
Awesome. Yeah, my video feed just cut out on my monitor. Yeah, it's been a day. I don't know. It starts raining one moment in California, and then everything falls apart. I don't know.
Oh, awesome. Well, I think, Juan, unless you have any other final things, we can wrap up.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Juan, thanks a lot for sharing your time, coming on and sharing the stuff that you built, as well as thank you for the stuff that you're building. Really appreciate it. And thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everyone.
Yeah.
That's a wrap. Have a good one. We'll
Thank
catch you next episode.
Okay.
Later.
All right.